Swami, what is the fundamental nature of the world, its so-called essence, and its existence?
Yeah, so different traditions within Hinduism answer those questions differently, actually. So within Hinduism, the most influential and important school, arguably, is Vedanta. And even Vedanta is not monolithic. There are many different sub-schools of Vedanta. And so let me begin by explaining Shankara's school of Advaita Vedanta, the non-dualistic school of Vedanta. For Shankara and his followers, this world is only real in a provisional sense from the standpoint of ignorance. But when we realize the highest truth, which is our own non-dual, our nature as non-dual pure consciousness, it turns out that this world was an illusion all along. It was almost like a dream. So that's one view. But the vast majority of Vedanta schools, the other schools of Vedanta, are devotional in nature, and they believe in an ultimate personal God. And they believe that this world is also intimately related to that personal God. And they bring in two different forms of causality to explain the relationship between the personal God in this world and the world's ontological status. So one kind of causality is instrumental causation. So the idea is that God is the instrumental cause of this world in the same way that a potter, for instance, is the instrumental cause of a clay pot that the potter makes. But there's another kind of causality, which is material cause, where the material cause of the clay pot is not the potter, but the clay itself, which is shaped into these different pots. And so according to many devotional schools of Vedanta, God, the personal God, is both the instrumental cause of this world and the material cause of this world. It's very interesting. And in fact, some of our earliest scriptures, the Mundaka Upanishad, uses the metaphor of a spider, which throws a web out of itself, out of its own body, right? A cobweb. The world is likened to that cobweb, which is actually one with the spider. And then it eventually withdraws that cobweb back into itself, which is the state of contraction of the universe. Oh. But so in that sense, God is actually the material cause. But one school of Vedanta, which is also devotional, it's Madhva's school of dualistic Vedanta, he's worried about the problem of evil. He's so worried about it. He says, if we actually make God the material cause of this world, then God gets infected with the evil that we find in this world. And so he says, no, God is the instrumental cause of this world, but not the material cause. But other traditions are bolder, and they bite the bullet, and they say that, no, but God is also the material cause of this world, which is admittedly full of both good and evil, but we have other ways of responding to the problem of evil.
And when God is the material cause of this world, that means that that's literally part of God. It's not, is it a part of God that God brings out of itself, like the spider web is not part of the spider? I mean, it comes from the spider, but then it has its independent existence. Or is God actually, part of God is the material world, and it's continuing to be part of God?
Yeah, the way most Hindu schools see it is that God continually sustains this world, and that the world has no independent existence apart from God.
Yeah, so there are two ways that can happen. The world can have an independent existence that is somehow dependent upon God to continue to sustain it at every given moment, or that is literally part of God, and therefore God doesn't have to worry about sustaining it because it's already part of him. There's two different ways.
Yeah, although, so one of the beautiful metaphors used by Ramanuja, who's one of the codifiers of a devotional school of Hinduism called qualified non-dualism, he uses the metaphor of body and soul, and he says that this world is the body of God. And in the same way that, for instance, why do we go to the gym? To maintain the body, right? So I don't think it's necessarily these two alternatives that you mentioned are mutually exclusive, that we can think of this world as God's body, but still as something that needs to be sustained and maintained.
Yeah. Are there any thoughts about some of the classical metaphysical terms beyond causality, which is very important, such as space and time and abstract objects? Are these issues that have ever come up as fundamental questions? Yeah,
so space and time is an interesting issue. And for instance, the non-dualistic school of Vedanta, they'll hold that this space and time, this entire universe, spatio-temporal universe, is actually within the realm of Maya, which means that ultimately it doesn't exist at all. And so some modern Hindu thinkers have likened the non-dualistic Vedanta, the view of non-dualistic Vedanta, with Kant's view that space and time are not things out there in a kind of Newtonian sense, absolute space and time, but that the projections of the mind.